I'm joined today by Dr. Michael Brown. He has been a guest on the show before. His website is askdrbrown.org, and he's the host of the nationally syndicated daily talk program, The Line of Fire. Also author of A Queer Thing Happened to America and 20 other books. Dr. Brown, great to have you back on. You put out this opinion piece, Time to Stand Up to the Gay Censors. Let me just give you, just a moment here to kind of paraphrase who the gay censors are and what they are trying to censor, I guess.
Sure. Well, you're doing the exact opposite of that by having me on to talk about it. My issue is with those who are trying to stop the media from talking with folks who oppose same-sex marriage, who oppose normalizing homosexuality, who have biblical or moral convictions that differ. So a principle on the list would be GLAAD, which initially was known as the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. They've recently just gotten rid of the acronym and said we're just GLAAD. But for example, a couple of years ago, they went to CNN and said, do not have any conservatives on. For example, if you're talking about revoking Don't Ask, Don't Tell, if you're talking about other issues, don't have these conservatives on because they're going to pollute the minds of the people. What they're saying is dangerous. And then I discovered last year or so that I was put on a list, maybe a little over that, by GLAAD. It was the Commentator Accountability Project, which they still have going, where they warn secular media to stay away from people like us. And what brought this up was GLAAD's reaction to Phil Robertson and Duck Dynasty and all that. And let the networks do what they do, let people make decisions. If people say a certain thing and it's unpopular, hey, whatever decisions are made, that's not an issue. But it's the censoring of free speech. It's the censoring of the exchange of ideas that I object to. And that's where I'm encouraging folks, stand up to those that are trying to censor us. And then I could give numerous examples in recent years where people just voicing their opinion on Facebook or in a newspaper have been fired from jobs or censored because of that, simply for differing with the goals of homosexual activism.
Okay, well, I think with the Facebook and the job thing, those seem to be kind of one-on-one cases where we have to look at what are the terms of the employment, are they allowed to have opinions? But let's focus on the GLAAD and CNN thing. Don't all groups of all sides lobby media outlets and elected officials to either talk about or not talk about certain issues, to include or not include certain points of view when they discuss issues? It doesn't seem to be a big deal to me that GLAAD doesn't want CNN to have people like Tony Perkins on, and then groups like Tony Perkins' group want them to have Tony Perkins on. It seems this happens daily in politics and media.
Yeah, I think your analogy, though, misses the point. Tony Perkins and FRC are not campaigning to say the Human Rights Campaign cannot come on the air on Fox opposite us, or don't have GLAAD come on opposite us.
Let's actually stop right there. Tony Perkins' assistant personally told me that he would not appear on my program if there was another guest with an opposing view. So the fact that you don't know for sure that Tony Perkins and FRC did that to CNN doesn't mean that they don't do it. They did it to me. I'm not accusing them of trying to censor. They just don't want that view represented. It's not a huge deal. Imagine if I wrote a piece saying Tony Perkins is trying to censor. He just doesn't want to deal with that point of view.
Let's do this. We're both inquiring people. We want to look into things and check things out. Let's see, does FRC have the equivalent of a Commentator Accountability Project where they reach out to media and then petition people online? Let us know if you see any of these people appearing. Send the word out, and then tell the networks that you do not want them on.
But Dr. Brown, in fairness, Dr. Brown, you've now reduced your argument from one saying one side does it and the other side doesn't, to one where you want to analyze it in shades of gray. Does one side do it more? So your argument has already changed drastically in the last 4 minutes.
Not at all. I'm simply reaching out to you where you are, David. That's all. Nothing has changed. GLAAD is a censor. GLAAD stands for the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Disagreement. They have a history of it. They have a history of trying to shut down opposing views.
I think, though, that we're just going to disagree that GLAAD is censoring anything. They're lobbying CNN the way anybody would lobby media or members of Congress. We're just disagreeing about the term. But Dr. Brown,
who else is let's just go to that. who else is actually lobbying the same way that GLAAD is, a major organization on the other side saying, do not allow these people on the air? I've seen an individual campaign
Yeah.
about a certain person from certain groups, on all sides, but to say that a major organization will not have this. Doesn't Tony Perkins come on opposite other people all the time? I don't monitor what he's doing, but
Yeah, no, I
would
don't either. He
assume
does
so.
sometimes. Certainly we could come up with examples, but I think the term censor is just not accurate. But Dr. Brown, I do want to get to something else, which is we have a few minutes left, and I want to get your thoughts on this. We've seen the continuing momentum of marriage equality across the country. We now have 39% of Americans living in states with full marriage equality, 49% of Americans in states with full or partial. We've got Oklahoma now, which is soon possibly coming over to our side, etc. Your opposition, I know, is steadfast to gay marriage. Can you sum up whether it is primarily based in religion, in your personal convictions, not connected to religion, or where is your opposition primarily based?
My views primarily are based as an individual.
Yeah.
So with my right to vote and speak, based on my convictions before God. In other words, my life of faith is not separated from my life of morality. Now, I do not believe that it's right for any religious group to impose their religious views on the nation. That would be against the Constitution.
No, we both agree on that. We both agree on that. But because you said it is because of you as a man of God, and this is an honest question.
That's first and foremost.
It is, and I want to focus on that. I want to focus on that.
I just want to say this. First and foremost, my views are formed by faith. As I look at things on a social level also, I do not believe that redefining marriage is in the best interest of society for many reasons. But to be totally candid with you, can I separate my social moral thinking from my life of faith? No, I don't seek to, but I'm perfectly happy to reason with it on either level.
Let's explore both briefly, okay?
Sure.
When it comes to the God side of it, and I ask this as a non-religious person, and it's an honest question.
Sure.
If your basis for being against two men getting married, for example, is based in your following of the Bible, polygamy was in the Bible, Abraham, Jacob, David had multiple wives, Solomon had wives and concubines, why don't you support those things? Are you not arbitrarily cherry-picking one element, one line or two lines from the Bible and ignoring that biblical marriage has meant any number of different things, most of which, as you said, you oppose polygamy, you don't favor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question, of course. And that's why I've devoted decades of my life to biblical study. You have to obviously look at the larger picture. So number one, we see the ideal when God created Adam, whether you take it literally as I do or take it as a myth, the message is the same. He created Adam and then Eve, and the ideal was the two becoming one. He didn't create Adam with several wives. Almost every example of polygamy in the Old Testament is fraught with problems, issues, difficulties. When we get to the New Testament, Jesus reinforces the ideal, one man, one woman together for life. And then Paul establishes for leadership in the church that a man can only have one wife, and then you're supposed to emulate the leaders. So polygamy, just like divorce, was something that was legislated in biblical times or given, but was never the ideal. And the examples in Scripture are constantly negative examples. So when we look at the Scripture holistically rather than cherry picking, we see that God's ideal, just like the New Testament presents Jesus and the church as a model of the groom and the bride. Again, it's a one-on-one union, and that's the whole beauty and concept of it. I would say this: I am more opposed to redefining marriage to make it two men or two women than I am opposed to polygamy. I'm opposed to both, but I see redefining marriage to two men or two women to be a further departure from the ideal and the norm, and to further deteriorate the meaning of marriage.
Yeah, this term redefining, I have kind of an issue with the anti-equality movement, because since you said that you can't really separate the biblical reasons for your opposition and your personal social reasons, let's kind of go back to that redefinition term that you used.
Sure.
We hear so often as a reason to oppose marriage equality that we can't redefine something called marriage, and that seems so juvenile to me. We initially defined it hominins have been on this planet 6 or 7 million years. We've had so-called definitions of marriage in modern United States It's only been a country that's around a couple of hundred years, and we've redefined many of things. Remember, Dr. Brown, black people used to be defined as 3/5 of a person. We redefined that. It's not a big deal. Why is the redefinition of things such a problem for the right?
Yeah, it's not a problem for the right. It's a problem for the human race. You're talking about in the history of the human race that marriage has not been the union of two men or two women for many, many reasons. By the way, I'm perfectly happy to discuss things on a purely social level or just a biological level in terms of what was intended by natural law, a man to be with a woman.
But hold on a second. We have to, yeah, but Dr. Brown, I can't allow that to just slip by. Homosexuality has existed in human and other species far longer than the human construction we call marriage has.
Yeah, and when
again,
did we ever
hominins
define marriage on any national level until after the sexual revolution of the 60s as the union of any two people? It was always a man and a woman, or a man and multiple women, or perhaps other arrangements like that.
But that's exactly, I think that's exactly my point.
People have been coming together in unions of a male and a female.
You're saying that
for the nation that has ever in recorded history defined marriage as the union of any two people.
But Dr. Brown, what you're ignoring there. No, but what I think you're ignoring a key thing, that nations, you said that in the history of nations themselves have only existed for a fraction of human history. That's really the point I'm trying to get. This entire construction of marriage is not something that is the default and has existed for all of human history. 6 or 7 million years, if you believe science, hominins have been on this planet.
Give me examples of homosexual marriages 7 million years ago. And if you're going to point to animal species, come on, some animals eat their young. I mean, are you saying throughout the history of the human species, you never had multiple groups of people getting together?
You have, but I think that weakens the argument that redefining things is dangerous, which is that the further back we look, the more relationships have varied, and it really shows that the entire concept of marriage is not even something that we can be sure is permanent as a part of
human.
So you
shouldn't worry about it then. Let us who cherish marriage and who believe God instituted a certain way as a man and woman together in the beginning. That's the way Scripture presents it.
Well, that's the way. That's where we differ.
And then you can just say, "Hey, any relationship, just don't call it marriage because the term doesn't really matter to you the way it matters to me."
If it didn't make a difference legally for how people are able to live their lives, I might agree with you. But the thing is that it does, and this kind of false need to keep a man and a woman as the only relationship that can reap certain benefits from the government and from legal entanglements, that's where you start hurting people. I would agree with you, Dr. Brown. If marriages serve no purpose, legal and financial, who cares what it is? But people's relationships are being hurt because they are not able to have that legal and financial framework.
Yeah, look, when I married Nancy in 1976, the last thing on our minds was any legal or financial benefit, and the whole world was in our face. That really didn't matter. We've been happy ever since. Anyway, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Dr. Brown deciding to wrap the interview up. We've been speaking with Dr. Michael Brown. AskDrBrown.org is the website. Thanks for being on.